I see that I'm kind of down in the corner. That's fine. Hello, hello. Thank you for being with me today. Yes, the computer is still kind of wackadoodle doo. Actually, I'm noticing now that all devices have changed up. That's fine. Whatever. I'll look at it when I get to it. So happy Friday, you beautiful stars. Hello. Yeah, so the camera's at a very interesting angle. So this picture here, my husband drew many moons ago. Um, it was like a lyric from a Beatles song, Looking Through the Glass Onion. He drew that, and that is the Choco Ray symbol for Reiki. So that's usually above me, but most of the time people can't see it. So yes, my husband is an amazing artist, portrait artist. Really, he's amazing, um, working with all of his charcoal pencils and whatnot. Um, so happy Friday! It is October 27th, 2023. Today's message, and if you are new here, welcome. It's a wonderful community here, and thank you for subscribing. Um, Today's message, I titled it, what's the point? And last Friday, we talked about light workers and the reality of light workers and how their upbringing's not usually the best. They do all the grunt stuff in a lot of ways. They show up for others because it's what we do in life, right? Um, Through the course of this past week, I had a lot of thoughts in my head, and I was thinking, well, I'll just do a rant, on Friday morning, because it's been a while since I was able to prepare things really. I'll be transparent about that. It takes a while to kind of put things together, and sometimes I just don't have that opportunity. So as I'm ranting in my head or just random thoughts throughout the week, I was thinking, why don't I do one about what's the point? I mean, what's the point of our existence, especially in today's world? And I will tell you the feelings that I've been experiencing, and a mighty, somewhat, I haven't really begun it yet, but I might go kind of silent for a little bit. I was silent as far as videos um, in October, but that was because of my intense schedule. Um, Now I might go a little silent because I need my silence. I just need my silence. I will tell you, my birth chart, I have a ton of Scorpio. I have a ton of Scorpio. Like I have 5 placements of Scorpio, 5 or 6. My moon and my rising are Scorpio, and we're headed into Scorpio season, so I tend to become a little bit more. I go inside as Scorpios would. I go inside. That is the sign that does that a lot. Same with Cancer, all the waters, right? But in today's world, there's a lot going on, and I will in November. In November, um, I will be making the 2 classes that I do with the patrons on Patreon.com. I will be making those free to the public. The majority of the time might be deep meditations for personal healing and also sending light and love to the world, right? The patrons have been learning how to use pyramids lately, and but I want to be able to give that to everyone, and a chance to be with themselves and heal themselves, and also send love to the world. There will also be some other special little tidbits in November. But before we begin with what's the point to all this, why are we here? What is going on? What's the answer to that? I actually saw a video that some girl randomly was like, "What's the point?" And then a comedian kind of answered her, and it was cute. Um, but I answered her. But there's more to it than that. Before we begin, I will say I grabbed the Sacred Geometry deck and and two cards jumped out at me. Before I even began shuffling, these two cards jumped out. So clearly they want to be represented. The first card was number 12, change. The frequency of change supports our ability to gracefully dance with the forever changing nature of reality, both inward and outward, so that we can appreciate the sweet release of the old and the birth of the new. I will hold this up. So I will tell you all, and there is a bit of a glare. Actually, the light is pointed very differently because I was using it for something else. I just got the November 2023 Akashic Collective message. And it is very much change. It is very much the beginning and the end. It is very much dancing, enjoy, and creating. There's some other elements to it. I want to hold up the next card as well. 32, Merkaba. The frequency of Merkaba supports our ability to use our consciousness to transverse into other layers of reality and dimensions. It activates our access to our Akashic inheritance as well, merging the totality of our experiences into our present to serve our highest purpose. Merkaba. I might end up getting a little bit emotional today. Merkaba. So this past week I was able to do, hello Cheryl, good to see you, my dear. This past week I was able to do some healing on myself. And some of you know that I do Karmic Timeline Cleanses. And I had been instructed by guides and the Akashic, what have you, to do it weeks ago. I never got to it, so I finally got to it Tuesday. And beloved Metatron and some others, lots of beings, it was for a very direct purpose. When I got there, I was like, okay, so what are we cleaning up, of my own timeline? What are we cleaning up? And Metatron brought me to an exact spot. And after we did what we did, he said, now I want you to do that for others. And I was like, awesome. That's awesome. I kind of did turn to him and go, you know my schedule, right? But regardless of that, what we did, though, was needed. What we did is we went to the exact spot in this cycle of my timeline, because there's many timelines that are in a spiral that are attached to the current cycle that we're in. We went to the exact spot where I made the decision to forget who I was. And I was actually kind of shocked as to the time frame, as to forgetting and just allowing myself to become one with the masses and follow the dialogue, follow the narrative, follow along, right? I was actually kind of shocked. I thought it would be much further back, but I made the decision to completely just forget who I was as the angelic, beautiful, divine spark being within and out. Um, I decided to do that more. It was during the Crusades, during that time period, which, like I said, I thought it would have happened along many times before that because I know of my past lives. No, that was about the time that I went, yep, I give up. I give up. I don't know what is going on with these humans, but clearly I'm just gonna play the game. I'm just gonna go along with the flow. Well, now since Tuesday, what that did truly, folks, is it hardened my heart for the rest of all the lives. It hardened the existence of what we have the full potential to do. It hardened around my inherent power and knowing and abilities. It hardened and sealed away that spark that we talk about here. So, this will go into what we're talking about today. So like I said, I assumed it would have happened before the Crusades, but there was a lot that happened during that time for me through many lives. So at some point, I made the decision to just go along with the flow, and that's been cleared up now. Been a bit quiet since that because it does when you remove things off your timeline like that, and you remove the energy that has then been playing out, it does change things within you. It does. So I've been a bit silent and whatnot. That is what now I suppose I'm going to be offering that to others as well. Just that aspect, not doing a full timeline cleanse of me going in and cleaning up a bunch of stuff. Usually takes an hour to an hour and a half. This would be like a quick 20-minute in, remove when you made that decision, because we all made that decision to become one with the forgetfulness, to become one with the fog, the error. We all made that decision at some point. And to remove the side effects, to remove that negative energy, um, I, I'm being told I have to do that for others now. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just sometimes it's like, oh gosh. So I would do it with joy. Trust me, I do it with joy. Um, I will be offering that definitely to my patrons. Definitely to my patrons, which we can work that out for very cheap for the patrons. Like I said, it's a quick, probably 20-25 minutes in. I remove, I tell you where you did it. Now go be free. Be the master presence that you are. Be the divine that you are, right? Um, and then for others, I decided I would take one day out of November, December, and January to set aside like a couple of hours to do 4 or 5 for people for a very small fee. I mean, I'm just gonna do this because I'm supposed to do it. So that will be an option. I'll talk more about it later. And that kind of brings us into today. What is the point? That's what I entitled this. And it's good to see Seeker, Shelly, Teresa. Good to see you guys, ladies, people, beings, beautiful stars. I'm going to be very transparent. So a few months ago. Oh, and Mark has joined us. Good to see you, Mark. A few months ago, and the collective has changed this, but now it's doing other things, the collective. And so we are going to be talking about how you create. Because the Akashic Collective message for November 2023 is very much about that. And they kept saying in it, this is for those who are listening. So that will always go out to my patrons first. Patrons, expect that by the end of today. A few months ago, as I'm in the Akashic getting information, I will tell you today, last night and today was originally a few months ago spoken about very differently. I believe that is still on the table, but then as months have passed, the collective has changed things. And so they were like, no, let's postpone for a few weeks or indefinitely because it's all determined on what we do. All is mental. All is mental. But I'll be transparent right now because, what have you. We were looking at, in these 2 days, months ago, going into a severe financial collapse for the entire globe. A severe one. Severe. I don't know how to express it. Worse than, 1929. Worse than that. Way worse. We were looking at that. It would have happened probably like last night. Now, when you turn on things and see things, we're looking at something else, right? We're looking at something else. That is a big part of the message for November. So be expecting that, folks. Because what is, and how they said it is, what is on our lips is also what we see. As we know from Hermetics, all the above, it is what we create. So I do want to inform people, though, that is still somewhat on the table. We have the power as a collective body to not live in that reality. I will tell you, 7th dimensional New Earth, 7th dimensional New Earth is open and available now. Is open and available for people to at least hop in and experience for a moment. People are still moving in and out of 3 and 5 in that 4 teeter-totter, right? Which is fine. But for many of us that have really tried to anchor themselves more into 5, 7 is very open. And so some of you might start noticing that when you're in the observer, experiencing your higher dimensional frequency thought self watching you in 3D as from 5 viewing you from 3, you might start feeling another presence viewing you that you can communicate with. That is your higher frequency dimensional thought self from 7. From 7. From 7 going, yeah, you might not want to do that. From 7, yeah, you can do this. Yeah, you are the ultimate. So I just wanted to let you know, 7 is very available right now. And so many will start to experience, and this is not so much the message, but part of it. 7, because it is open now to everyone who wants, you might not be experiencing so much of 5. You might start jumping from 3 to 7. Whew. In and out, right? In and out. So I just wanted to make that very clear. I'll have to do a series on that. I don't know. Anyways, there's so much stuff that I'm like, I need to do something about that to explain that better. So what's the point? If I asked you guys right now, those in the chat, if I asked you, what do you think the point of existence is? Your life. What would be the first response? Just the first response. What would be your answer? What's the point? why are you here? You know, you get that so much from Akashic clients. Why am I here? And what's the answer from the Akashic always? First, to love. I have 3 things written down, just so you know. To love. To love. I like Mark's response. He said to be tested. To be tested. I love it, Mark. Actually, I just saw it in the chat, so I'm using it. And Cheryl said suffering. Okay. So to be tested, there must be a grade at the end. For suffering, there's a reason. So what is the grade? How do you get an A on the test? What is the opposite of suffering? What is the result of suffering? Teresa said to be a positive influence in the world. Every master, regardless of their doctrines or what has been changed over time or the dogma that ensued from other humans, every master references that love. Love is the answer to why we're here. But how does that look? Why? Why love? Why love? Why love? Because love might get you the A on that test. Love heals suffering. Love is the positive influence in the world. And to what Cheryl just said in the chat, understanding. That's the second one. So number 1 is to actually learn how to love. And we're still in that. I will get to the second one in a minute. We're still very much trying to learn that. And it's quite difficult and pains my heart when I hear so much. So one of the thoughts that came through my head this week, this concept now of, or the term I should say, of what's it called? Non-action people? No, what is the word? I had it in the moment. I keep missing it. Non-character people, not, whatever, the people that, if everybody thinks this is a matrix, the people that are not people, the, what is it called? Non-playing characters, something like that. Damn, I had it in the moment and then I forget all the time. Gosh, I don't even remember. Everybody's coming into terms with it being a matrix. And they keep referencing these humans, non-character players. There you go. They use the damn gaming term as if we're all just gamers. Non-character players. So everybody's using that term for humans that don't have the God spark. For humans that are just walking around. Humans that might be very much part of the matrix that are there and then not there. There then not there. The low bottom feeders, as some would reference. Non-character players. They fill spots. That they fill spots. Right? Okay, so I got the term right. Thank you for allowing me to have that moment. It's been bothering me since that term has come about the past few months. Because by referring to someone as that, I don't know where the love is. I don't know where the love is at all. And we've always known they exist. That's what do you think the Sumerian texts are referring to? They created people just to dig for gold? Those are your non-character players. They've been here for a very long time. But that doesn't mean that we dismiss them and just say, you're not even a character in this story. Move on. Or despair. Or we have no compassion or care for the low bottom feeders. It's very, because they are made of the same flesh and blood as we are. So it is this airs of pride and ego that is saying, well, they don't have the God spark, so they don't mean much. That it pains my heart to think that people are referring to this non playing characters, right? It really troubles me because they are still. Let's say it is so. Let's say it's so, which it kind of is, yes. And let's say this is a matrix that we are all creating. There is no overlord creating this. We are, right? We are the system, creating the system. There are boundaries to the system, there are rules and laws, right? But we are creating the system. We are creating the game board. We're creating it. So if we also have these non-playing characters, right? They serve some kind of purpose, don't they? If they're there, they are serving some kind of purpose. But we're dismissing them entirely. And one of those purposes might be to acknowledge them and show compassion and love. So we can better practice. So, lovely Mark used the word test. I say practice. I started saying that. That came from my teachers years ago. That instead of me thinking of life as a series of tests, to change my way of thinking into life is a series of opportunities to practice compassion and love. Oh, Teresa just said, who decides who is a NPC? So for me personally, it goes back to the Sumerians. They created, we have it in the text, and it is very documented in other things, that they created humans to dig for gold, right? That did not mean the entire human race. That did not mean all of those that have the God spark. Those are people that were created to dig for gold. And since then, over time, they are able to reproduce and create humans. Our reproduction is very elementary. It's not all that difficult. So they've been reproducing and reproducing. So those people who don't necessarily have the God spark are also in a category as non-character players. But people are also referencing those beings that, if this is a simulation, which it is technically, if it is a simulation, that those are people that are just, they drop in. They're not really there. They're a simulated being. And they could be simulated from whatever, our minds. If we're here's an example. Let's say we have to get to a meeting and we have to get on an elevator, and the whole time, like walking down the city block to get to the elevator, or in the taxi or whatever to get to the elevator, we're thinking this elevator is going to be too packed and I'm not going to be able to get on, and I'm going to have to wait for the next elevator, right? I'm using an example from when I was in college because it had one working elevator in a 30-story building. It was ridiculous. And all these college kids trying to jam in. It was ridiculous. And so I was late constantly. But in that scenario, you have a meeting, you got to get there. You're thinking the entire time that the elevator is going to be too packed full of people and you're not going to be able to get on in time. Your thoughts just filled that elevator. Your thoughts did probably create a simulation of that moment of too many people, quote unquote, non character players that may or may not be real. But when you get there, you perceive you can't get in because it's too crowded, doors are shut, you don't fit. You just created that. So there's ones that the Sumerians have created that do not have the God spark, that most of them don't have so much of a conscious level as far as in comparison to those with a God spark. They're still humans though. They're still flesh and blood. They were born and reborn, born and reborn. They're still humans. And then there's those others that we create by our thoughts that are there in the moment to give us, to serve us what we are thinking. Have you ever been somewhere? Have you ever been somewhere and you were having just a horrible day? Just a horrible day. And someone out of nowhere pays you a compliment. Oftentimes we see those as angels. But that is also possibly your higher self creating a non-character player so you can feel better in a moment. So you can remember that you're worth much more than that miserable day. There's a lot of aspects that goes into them. The point is that though we dismiss them. We dismiss we dismiss the fact that we're creating the system, and we dismiss the fact that they serve a great purpose. They serve a great purpose. So if they are of the human flesh and blood bodies, we are to love them. If they are of our own creation in that instance, they are there to teach us something. And normally that teaching is to remind us of our worthiness and that we are creating all the time. So it's kind of it's a paradigm to me that we talk so poorly about beings that are part of the same system as us. We do that with everything. We really do. And it's just as causes the more separation and division and separation and division is really just a separating you and dividing you from the potential of love that you can hold. So it's kind of difficult. Mark just said, maybe the NPCs have just lost that love and feeling. Exactly. Everything serves a purpose. Everything serves humans and Gaia. I mean, everything does. It is how we understand it and how we use it. All that transpires is to really serve us and our evolution. It really is. A lot of religion and some cultures would say that all serves God. All serves God. Suffering and, positive, negative and positive, it all serves God, right? That's what a lot of different, at least the mainstream religions would say. In essence, what it serves is the point that we're going to be making here. It serves us into understanding, remembering the ultimate magnitude of source love that we hold. So let's go into that. So one is to love unconditionally, and that is still so difficult for humans. It is so difficult to love unconditionally But it's because we get wrapped up in, I don't know what we get wrapped up in so much. So we take things so personally. We got so many judgments. Usually we judge them first because we're afraid they're going to judge us. Wow, the psychology of humans is like, phew. We get wrapped up in so many things, and instead of being able to objectively just say, yep, you're present, I love you. You're here, you deserve grace, you're worthy, I love you. Period. Period. It's very, we get very in our emotions, which human emotions, by the way, have been manipulated and distorted to cause that separation. It's a complex system. We can free ourselves from it. So first is to love unconditionally people, places, and things. Very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. That's why it's number one. That's why it's the most difficult. So we're gonna kind of go a little bit backwards here. Number two is to remember. To have full remembrance of who you are. To have full remembrance of who you are. This goes back to when I spoke at the beginning of the timeline cleanse aspect that Metatron just did with me the other day, to remove where in this cycle of my timelines I chose to forget who I am. We all did it at some point. Those of us who inherently have the God spark, the flame, the breath of God within creation. Those of us who have that, at some point, we chose to surrender to the narratives, to the masses, to going with the flow, to 3D. At some point, we chose to surrender to it, to just give up. The point, especially now, especially now, October was trying to get us prepared for making that decision to remember who we are again. Entering into November, you have full access into remembering who you are. Remembering your origins of being. Remembering the power that you do hold. Remembering all of your abilities, gifts, and skills from all of your experiences, from all of your lives. Remembering that you do not lack anything. Remembering how you are the ultimate. All of that will be highly, highly available for you to remember and open yourself up to that as to who you are, especially in November. And then in December, you should be a celebration of your remembrance, but we'll get to it if we see that happening. In that remembrance, we don't lack anything. I was thinking the other day how sad it is, how powerless people feel with all that goes on in the world. From Americans to all the countries to all the peoples. How powerless we feel for every little nuance and aspect. I had a week, let's just say that. I had a week of feeling the collective big time. I don't normally feel one-on-one energies because that's not the type of empath I am, but I get drenched in the collective energies. Oh man. And it was an overwhelming amount of people, all the peoples, feeling powerless. That is not the case. Do you feel that way? Yes. Yes. I do not want to, I'm not trying to minimize anyone's feelings. That's not, your feelings are there for you to acknowledge why and then do something, right? But we get caught up in the feelings. And when it's something like that, feeling powerless, then we don't know and we don't have the resolve. It can be very overwhelming for a human. Very, very overwhelming. And everybody would seem to be feeling it last week, or this week, I should say. It's Friday. Ooh, everybody was feeling it. And I was just like, okay. Oh, sorry, I just knocked the table. So, we are not powerless. We actually have all of the power. We are ultimate beings. We have all the power. So going back to like just a minute ago when we were talking about the non-character players in this matrix, it is puzzling to me that people seem to be accepting the fact that it's a matrix and that there is some form of system, right? That blue or red pill, I don't ever remember which pill is which. Like about every 6 months I'm like, Brad, which pill is what? I have to turn to my husband and be like, what pill do I want to swallow? I don't know what's going on. I personally, those movies, the ideology was correct. I don't go as sci-fi as that. But the stuff like Mr. Smith and whatnot, and how he can multiply, or that stuff is all very true. All very true. It got a little too wires and sci-fi for me. The concept, though, is very true. The Matrix. And so what's funny is that people are accepting that. People are starting to accept that, but yet not accepting their power within the system. Right? Within the system. And I think it is because of that movie, because I based it on, do you take a pill or do you not take a pill? Do you step out of it and see it for what it is, or do you live inside of it and just keep playing the game? Well, so many people are like, I'm going to step out. I understand what's going on here. I'm going to step out and see it for what it is. And let all these other people kind of play the game. But yet no one's actually doing that. That's my paradigm of why not. Because that in lies is your power. Because we're not understanding that when we step out of that and view, our view is creating it. This can go into science as much as you want. We know that if you perceive, neurons and electrons and atoms or what have you, if when they are perceived, they start doing other things. They do as you see them do. We know this now, right? Physics has taught us this. Everything's made of these atoms. Everything is. So it's interesting to me that people step out and all they're doing is then viewing what is happening. Not realizing that their sight it back in is what is still creating it. It's fascinating to me. When imagine if you stepped out, saw things a whole lot differently, and started coding Isn't it interesting? Coding or covering what you see here with a different image. Well, then things would change. It's very fascinating to me that we hold ourselves in this pigeonhole that something else is making all this happen. There is nothing else making this happen. There's nothing else. There was the original cause that created the effects, and it's just been playing out since. That we control. That's it. There was first the word, the light, the spark, the thought, however you want to describe it, into the void, created the first cause, and it's been playing out ever since, based on us. Based on us. Yeah, so Chloe just said, she said, well, most find it kind of hard to believe because of programming that we have all those superpowers and capabilities. Humans are super. Humans are, I mean, we have those stories for a reason. We are super. What I would say to that, it is the programming. It is the programming that tells you you're powerless, tells you you don't have enough money for groceries, tells you you don't have this. Lack, 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 fear, fear, fear. Remember, fear comes in three categories. Three categories, and then all of them are scenarios and feelings and examples underneath those. Fear comes from either rejection, and that rejection can be in all ways, shapes, and forms. Right? Right? Lack, or survival. And I mean hardcore survival. Right? Not just lack. Because when we think of words like lack, we think of, we don't have stuff. But lack actually implies a lot of things. Loneliness could be a lack of. Intimacy, lack of. All sorts of stuff, right? That you could feel that you are lacking. That causes fear. Rejection, lack, survival, right? So take the programming that Chloe was just talking about. Take the programming and then add a whole lot of that into the mix. Add a whole lot of that into the mix. What I'm trying to... So I understand why. I understand why people are essentially holding themselves and things back. I understand why. But when you truly, number two, what's the point? Remember who you are. You will not be able to accept the view of which we live now. There will be no more just accepting the matrix and assuming that something else is creating it. There cannot be any more. Well, I hope we don't blow ourselves up. Even though hope is amazing. We, as we step out of the matrix to view it as it is for what it is, if we just, which is where a lot of people are at, they're viewing it. Cool. Just go one step higher. Go one step more into your knowing and understanding that we are creating. View it differently. Cover all the landscapes and all the peoples in love, harmony, peace. Cover all of it in how you view the greatness to be. And before we continue, because it goes into the number 3, I believe that's also what really holds people back. Is we see it as the collective has to come together as one to create something miraculous. The collective cannot come together as one to create something miraculous unless that individual does it first. Period. It's we live in a system that is, we are all joined as one of a collective but live singular lives. It is those singular lives. Think of a network of wires, a network of, think of all how the inside of a atom looks. I mean, think of all of the science you want. That's exactly how it has to happen. 1, 2, 3, right? We just all start doing it as singular beings first. So I propose to you as we go into number 3, which is to create. So what's the point of why we're here? And I might actually do a follow-up next week about this as well. Number 1, to love. That is the ultimate. To love. To love out of the suffering. To have compassion and grace for others, knowing that they suffer as well. To see every test as an opportunity to have compassion and love for another and yourself. To be a voice or not a voice in any situation that deserves love and compassion in it. Sometimes the best thing to do is to do nothing, but to be silent and still and present. Sometimes it is to be a voice and show your compassion and care. Number 2, remember. To remember your divine being within. To remember the origins of who you are and the ultimate power that you hold. You are superhuman. You are of the divine. There is no separation between you and the divine and the all. So if the divine lives within you and you live within the divine, tap into that source. To remember who you are. That was 2. 3, and we started getting there. To create. To create. We were given that awesome gift when we were thought of, when we were created by the Creator, that the Creator said, now you go create. Now you go create. Many doctrines of the religions would refer to that as multiply. It is to create. Period. Create. Now you go and create. I gave you the gift of creation when I gave you the breath of life. Now go create. I gave you all the same powers that I have. Go create. Show me the most beautiful thing that you can do, because you are also part of all sacred geometry. Go use it and create. I gave you all of the power of hope and faith. Go create with it. I gave you the power of manifestation, instant manifestation when you live without doubt and fear. Instant manifestation, which we're doing, it's just in doubt and fear. Go create. But yet we are creating. We are creating every day, every moment, every thought. Hence, when you're late to a meeting and you got to get there and you're worried that the elevator is going to be too full, you just created a full elevator. Hence, when the words on our lips and the thoughts in our mind and The actions that we take, cause and effect, we create. Hence, as we were talking about stepping out of the matrix, view it for what it is, and then see it differently. Create. We are creating all the time. All is mentalism. All is mental. All is all. All is one mind, starting with the singular self. Create. So with that in mind, as we can create a new story for ourselves, we can create a new programming if we would like. Reprogram yourself. Reprogram yourself. Create a new. If we got all this junkety junk programming in us, reprogram yourself. Choose how you want to view yourself, right? Choose how you want to view it. Create, create, create. We're doing it without acknowledging it. I'm asking for acknowledgement, and then do it in your best possible way. Do it in all the different ways that can be physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, all of them. Create, 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 create. Because we're doing it anyways. Please acknowledge that you are. And if you don't like what you see, change what you see. Change what you see. So you can at any time sit and imagine. Start simple. Sit and imagine things you would like to see inside your home. Then imagine things you would like to see in your town or city. And it can be simple and it can be big. There is no degree in creation. There's no degree in creation. That's why the natives speak so much about there is no difference between the little creepy crawlies and the four-leggeds and us. There is no degrees in creation. So if you create something smaller, you create something big, it is creation all in the same and all work together. Create. See something for your town or city. Expand a bit. Maybe your state, maybe your country. Definitely for yourself. Start with self. If you want to deprogram, you have to reprogram. It is a cosmic law. And I will end with this, and I'll pick up the cards again and read them. It is a cosmic law that you cannot take something away without replacing it with something else. Because it will be filled. It will be filled. And that is what we're living now, in this disaster of a matrix system that we are creating. We think, oh, well, this was taken away. It was just replaced with something else. Because we are not controlling what is being placed there. So if we imagine something being taken away, we have to imagine what is being put in its place. We have to envision it. We have to mentalize and manifest and demonstrate it. It is a cosmic law, and that's why we keep living in what we keep living, is that we're not acknowledging we have control over that. Not control. We work with the laws. I shouldn't use that word. I apologize. But right now, we're not even working with them. We're allowing cause and effect to play out, and we're just living through it and witnessing it and not agreeing with it. Well, then don't agree with it. Change it. Change it. Starts with self. Create. So, number 1, what's the point? To love. Number 2, to remember who you are. Number 3, create anew. I'm going to read these cards. This is from the Sacred Geometry deck, number 12, Change. The frequency of change supports our ability to gracefully dance with the forever changing nature of reality, both inward and outward, so that we can appreciate the sweet release of the old and the birth of the new. As I hold this up, think of that power, and I apologize for the glare. My light's a little bit off. And thank you everyone for coming today. Seeker, Mark, Chloe, Galaxy Fox 439, good to see you. Lori, good to see you, my dear. Cheryl, I know you were in there. Teresa, thank you for coming. Change. We are not powerless. We are so not powerless. We are so not powerless. We are the ultimate. We are the ultimate. We are the governs. We were given the gift to govern over Gaia, who is one of the who is sought after and desired and the most precious. We were given that. We were given the opportunity because why? Create. Because for us, our inheritance, our birthright is to love, remember who we are, and create within the two. That is what we are. That has never changed. We just forgot. Number 32, the Merkaba. The frequency of Merkaba supports our ability to use our consciousness to transverse into other layers of reality and dimensions. It activates our access to our Akashic inheritance as well, merging the totality of our experiences into our present to serve the highest purpose. These two cards jumped out today. They, I'm sure, knew what I was going to say. Merkaba. The totality of all of your experiences from all the lives you have lived are within you. To remember So to you all, you beautiful beings, you lovely stars, you perfect creations, November will be many opportunities for you to create and see differently, for you to speak love, and to remember who you are as the most ultimate, amazing being. All of November will give you opportunities to choose that. It's all a choice. So thank you everyone for coming. The collective Akashic reading will be going to the patrons today, and so I will have it out in a few days to everyone else here. Consider joining us on Patreon. I do want to say that the 2 November classes on patreon.com of Stars of the Morning Light will be free to view. The public can view them freely. I'm doing the 2 in November that way. Consider joining us. It is a great time. $5 if you can afford $8 a month. That's making up the difference for somebody else. I would appreciate it. The link is in the About section if you go over to the About section right now. And there will be other deals and giving back to my community in November, because that's when I normally do it. You all are such amazing, amazing beings. I can see all the potentiality of all the beings, of all the beings. And so I know of the greatness. I know that we are limiting ourselves. I know that it is with us and that programming that told us that no, you can't. That is what's stopping us. I know, yes, we can. We can beyond measure. We can beyond space and time. We can create completely anew. But it does start with the individual you. So, blessed be to all. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend. I will be back. Cheers, guys. Bye.